Teta Mapaila, the floor is yours.
Bata, all power. Don't leave the lines, don't leave. Forward to socialism, forward. Down with capitalism, down. Thanks very much, Comrade Program Director, Bopa Comrade. Comrade Tulas Ngesi, our Deputy National Chairperson. I was asking Comrade Jenny, why did we have to go through this when we have no time? Matter of introduction. But safe to say, when I joined the new army, the integrated army, it is called South African National Defense Force, SANDF, not SADF. SADF ile. Let me greet you and greet your co-chairperson, the Bokinape, Comrade Bonagele Machuba, and greet the leadership of the Communist Party, led by Comrade Joyce Muloe Muropa, Comrade Matala Masuku, several members of our Central Committee and Politburo, and our provincial leadership led by Comrade Lakim Buyani, and the rest of the PEC. Sinbonge kakhulu Comrade Laki for this wonderful occasion today to launch our Red October campaign. Sibonge futhi ne collective yakho from the PC to the district leadership and our branch structures for responding to this program. Ngibulise the leadership of the ANC, led by Dr. Namani Dixon Masemola, Releboe Mafuko ngaka ya tsa tsebo ya dithuto ape ke a bona re ntho ka re tla nyaka ba dingaka di kopane le buileshane re leboge message o mogolo tswa o ANC le maloko ka moka ANC a gona mo Comrade Speed Mashilo, the Deputy Provincial Chairperson and members of the PC, the regional leadership of the ANC, the regional secretaries here, and other members of the REC, and our structures of the ANC here. Thank you very much as well for working together with our comrades for this event. And greet the leadership of COSATU, led by Comrade Gerald Twala, the Deputy General Secretary, and members of COSATU present here, members of various affiliates, the Provincial Secretary, Comrade Mukwena, as well as all members of our trade unions present. Equally great Comrade Linda Dlamini, the Provincial Secretary of SANCO, and all our comrades from SANCO here. I've seen others that we were together in the program of the Young Communist League during the week here in Witbank. And all comrades from Sanko are present here. And great comrade Bobo Pemba, ukomisa of Umkhonto weSizwe Liberation War Veterans, Commissar of the Glorious People's Army, Umkhonto weSizwe, Commissar. I greet you and all commanders and commissars of the People's Army, Umkhonto weSizwe. And greet the leadership of our Young Communist League, led by Comrade Mzwandile Takudi, and all leaders of the Young Communist League, Comrade Ayanda here in the province. I must indicate, Ayanda, that I was very excited during the week. Nothing made me more excited in my week's program than the program I had with the Young Communist League in this province, Nopala. We had a wonderful program with our youth. And that gave me more spirit and more impetus, the energy, the commitment, but much more the availability to serve our people. I've never seen the Young Communist League at a district level organized in that form. And Comrade Majuba and Comrade Laki. This comrade, they were saying that they are new leadership, Comrade Itumele and Comrade Lihlonolo and several others, quite energized. I'm happy with that. And I think let's build on that. Comrade Takudi, this was wonderful work from the comrades here. I saw that Comrade Utemba, the former provincial secretary, was more worried that this Ayanda is addressing so many young people. He was elected during the COVID period. So he only addressed virtually. Open chair. Sorry, my leader. But that's quite wonderful. And I was assured that certainly this event will be successful just by looking at the success of that program of the Young Communist League. Comrades, I think let me complete my greetings to our structures of the movement and our fraternal organizations, the leadership of Pudemo, Comrade Velapi Mamba, the TG, for being here and also for sharing a message with us about the conditions in Swaziland. I'll speak to this matter in our message. And of course, Comrade Ndebele from the ANC Veterans League, and all our comrades from the Veterans League, as well as our comrades from Pudemo, and from the Solidarity Movement in South Africa, the Communist Party of Swaziland as well. And greet our comrades from the People's Republic of China, Comrade Li Kaiyang, and the delegation that is leading the charge d'affaires at the embassy, as well as the ambassador of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, Comrade Yang, and your delegation. One can say, if anything today, imperialism can never dare to try, is to play with China and the DPRK, North Korea. They are independent. It's the same as a young independent state, Iran. It faces them face to face. It confronts them, the imperialist forces. So we are encouraged that you have joined us here, and also greet Comrade Mashia from Africa for Palestine, and all the comrades from our structures across the country, our provincial secretaries and leaderships from different provinces. We appreciate your presence here. As well as the MPOs, including the Tumamina Pension Fund Forum, that I know we've been working on this question. I've been feeling good lento le yenu just that labantu badila ngayo basephezulu. If beyila ekhaya besoyipha usasekani manzini adile ngayo. Bayazoyiqeda nya. We still have to take it up. I got a briefing about where the situation is. I know we've been handling this matter for quite some time. Even at the time when Comrade Jackson Mthembu was still alive, he was handling this matter. And it is still not yet resolved. We have to find a way to resolve this matter, so that you get what is due to you. I think, comrades, let me greet the mayor and thank him and his team for doing work and for retaining this area under the leadership of the African National Congress. And of course, great Ntabezitha Mahlangu and his council. Sithi siyabonga baba usijoyine na. Uhlale isikhathi eside nathi. Ukhulekile siyazi unomsebenzi eminingi. But siyabonga ukuthi ube nathi la. Sizokhuluma kancane. Comrade Bobo went at length about our relationship with the traditional leaders in South Africa, because of their own heroic fight to defend this land against colonialism and imperialism. The land is not fully back, so the war continues. Kodwa ngifuna ukubonga uNtabezitha sakuvakashela lapha ekhaya sizokubona singamakomanisi from national level. We know that our province have visited you several times for some discussions. Comrades, the protocol that required me to do all these greetings took almost 12 minutes of my speaking time. But let me get into our message and start by wishing our comrades from Mozambique, from the Liberation Movement Frelimo, all the best in the coming elections in few days' time. There are even a meeting here in Komati to engage Mozambican nationals who are based in South Africa, so that they should go back home and vote, I think on the 9th. We want to say to them and to all Mozambican nationals in South Africa that every vote counts. And we saw it so particularly from our recent experience. Imperialism has united and is funding all counter-revolutionary forces together to remove the liberation movement from political power, so that imperialism can continue to oppress our people and own their economy. But equally, because of its significance, this matter is in our message, but it's important to say we want to express our solidarity with the people of Lebanon and to condemn the government of Israel for targeted killing of the leadership of Hezbollah as well as the leadership of Hamas. In particular, the killing of Comrade Syed Hassan Nasrallah, the General Secretary of Hezbollah in Lebanon. We condemn this in the strongest terms possible. We now know that the chairman of Hezbollah hasn't been in communication with his, or the Hezbollah movement has lost communication with its chairman since Friday. Because the apartheid Israel regime, the occupier state of Israel, has launched a massive offensive to destroy countries of the Middle East. They are currently bombing Lebanon. They are bombing, in particular, the city of Beirut. And Comrade Bobo, you know, when I was underground, I work in the youth movement in my township. My section was named Beirut. All other sections of my township were named after the Rivonia trialist and other leaders of our movement, except my section, which was named Beirut, in honor of the youth of Lebanon, who were confronting British imperialism. Now, this imperialist attack on Lebanon and the rest of the Middle Eastern areas continues today. But we can say to the occupied state of Israel, in fact, it's not a state, it's a regime, the axis of resistance in the Middle East will never be broken. But we want to also express our thanks to various governments there, especially the government of Iran, for playing such a critical role in this resistance against the occupation of their land by Israel, supported by the Americans. The Americans want to continue their hegemony through the proxy occupied state of Israel in the entire Middle East. But this government has become a genocidal killer regime of women and children, of doctors, of nurses, medical personnel, of journalists. They've destroyed almost every single university in Gaza, destroying every single school available, houses of worship, churches, mosques, and everything else. But we say we stand in solidarity with the people of these countries under attack, the people of Palestine in particular, and especially the people of Palestine in Gaza. Of course, the people of Syria, Iran and Iraq, and Lebanon, as well as Yemen, all under turmoil because of one proxy state of US imperialism, the Israeli regime. We want to say, comrade, for two decades, our Red October campaign has been a consistent part of our program to advance class struggle within and in the National Democratic Revolution to advance our freedom. We have focused our campaign, for instance, on various critical economic and social issues and measures that have of immediate impact to the workers and the poor, while at the same time taking care of the future of the entire working class as a movement. And of course, making sure that the ultimate struggle for socialism remains successful. Socialism, comrades, in simpler terms, it's about the people sharing their wealth amongst themselves. That is why there's no any justification whatsoever ukuthi country fana ne-South Africa, i-country e-wealthy kangaka, ibe nabantu abahluphekile, ibe nabantu abampofu, abangenalutho, abacela ukudla, abacela imisebenzi. These are the primary failures of the capitalist system. There's nowhere in the world where capitalism has succeeded. Yet, there's nowhere in the world where socialism has failed. That is why the struggle for socialism in this country, it's not whether capital likes it or not. It's a consequential reality that will be there. South Africa has to find a way towards socialism. Otherwise, when majority of people are start dying of hunger, they will know the truth, that the path to their freedom, it's socialism. The minority capitalists in our country, the expropriators of our wealth, who are hoarding our wealth and money in the stock exchange, in liquid cash, investing in speculative trade, and not in production, where jobs can be created, where livelihoods and industrialization can thrive, and people can live better. They take this money into speculation and invest it all over the world. They leave nothing for the poor. That's the greediness of capitalism. But it's the nature of capitalism, comrades. It doesn't matter whether you go to the USA, the so-called biggest capitalist country in the world, or even Britain, where capitalism was founded. The people there are unequal. In the US, people still sleep under bridges, on the roads, in the world's biggest economy. The budget of the US, just to give you a simple example, they run on a deficit budget of over 36 trillion US dollars. Now, just to cut matters short, I won't go into that detail. The entire African continent, the GDP of the entire African continent is not even 6 trillion US dollars. Yes, the entire continent. But that country can't even end poverty in its own. Because if you start understanding who owns what, you have people who are owning money in hundreds of billions as individuals, when others have nothing. This is what the Uruguayan scholar Galeano, who once said that, the first world is doomed to die from cholesterol, and the third world is to be annihilated by malnutrition. Masibeka kahle uthi abanye umhlaba lo kuthiwa i-first world, abo-America and Europe, abantu bakhona bazoshona ngokukholuphala, ngokudla kakhulu, kodwa thina la in Africa and Latin America and the Middle East sawubulawa ngendlala. This is the reality of the capitalist system. It creates these huge divisions and inequalities in society. So i-Red October campaign yethu sought to create, under the current conditions in South Africa, a non-capitalist path of development. A path in which the people can take the destiny in their own hands, their own destiny in their own hands. Of course, uKomisa Bobo of Umkhonto weSizwe spoke about the Great October Socialist Revolution in Russia. This is what inspired this our Red October campaign. But we're doing it in the conditions of South Africa. When we started this campaign, for instance, we mobilized the working class in the fight for financial sector transformation. Ukuchincha the way financial architecture in South Africa ingakhona. We're also mobilizing for land redistribution and agrarian transformation. Ukuchincha the way abantu balima ngakhona in South Africa. In other words, we were calling for the land transfer to the people. Dr. Masemul, let me put it to you. We were the first organization in the political space to run almost a permanent campaign on land transformation. And at that time, we even found that our movement was wanting on the land question in terms of policy. The policy is properly developed in 2007 at the Polokwane conference. But the fact that the primary problem, the primary dispute, if you like, the main crisis of South Africa, the land taken away by imperialist forces. We can talk so 30 years into democracy that we are still trying to transform bits by bits of the land, shows that the National Democratic Revolution is not on course. So we agree, Comrade Gerald, the National Democratic Revolution has been derailed. We need to bring it back on course. So when we started this campaign, we were looking for economic and social justice. In particular, we were looking to end economic exploitation of the working class and domination of society by a tiny minority of heartless capitalist class. Abananhliziyo lamakapitali bakuhlekisa ufa ngendlala. That is why namanje bahlekisa abantu bakithi bafa ngokugula baseyibhedlela bathi hayi kumanini igule thina ibusiness yethu ugula kwenu. That's why bangayifuni national health insurance. Abafuni wonke umuntu abe ne access to free medical care in this country at the point of service. It is in this regard, comrade, that Red October campaign, it's meant to organize our structures and our communities to live independent of the oppression of the capitalist system, to work with the progressive government, to assist them, the people, to meet their demands. And therefore, this year's Red October campaign, it's focusing on fighting against high food prices. We are tackling this crisis head on. You know, the Cuban government, the revolutionary government of Cuba, I'll talk a bit about Cuba before I finish my notes, but something that is not related to what I'm going to say. Skinja, I know you love Cuba. You know that revolutionary government, when it took power, in the first cabinet meeting, they resolved to cut food prices. We need a government, if the government has got the power of the people to take such kind of decisions, not to complain about these things, to intervene on behalf of the people. So this campaign is to tackle the cost of living crisis for the ordinary people in this country. Food prices are so high. Every other thing is high. Energy prices, petrol, diesel, everything, paraffin, electricity, everything is high. We are in charge of electricity. Why are we not handling this matter proper? The revolution must be able to do these things. There should be no reason why our people cannot afford water. Because what we are dealing with now is the crisis of living. Abantu bethu abasakwazi ukuphila kunzima because of capitalism. It's not because of the African National Congress, Comrade Dixon. And the ANC is making a strategic error by wanting to take the mistakes of capital and make those mistakes theirs. So the ANC must articulate an appropriate political posture against capital, because capital is not for the people. The ANC is an organization of the people, was established by our own traditional leaders. Of course, and some intellectuals within our midst. But the bottom line, this was also a consequence of a fight against imperialism. When the Boers and the British, after signing the Peace Treaty of Vereeniging, they were to set up new laws and to establish the Union of South Africa without the indigenous people of this country. So we have no obligation to capital, but we have an obligation to our people. That should be the guiding framework. And this should be the guiding framework of our alliance relations. If we're going to pursue a neoliberal economic system, the neoliberal economic system is a modern capitalist system that says the government has no role in the affairs of society. It is simply a regulator, a maker of laws. But everyone knows that's absolute nonsense. How do you run a government like that? Even the US government that has corporatized many things, they still retain political power. In fact, they have a stronger democracy than ours. The president there signs 6 decrees the day he's inaugurated into office. They become effective and law in the United States. So thina sifuna ukusicompare ne-democracy engafani. So we're comparing 2 different things altogether. Now, neoliberal capitalism says the state, the government, must not have a role in the health of the people, must not have a role in the education of the people, must not have a role in the water affairs and provision of energy and transport and everything else. They say we will provide that, but the people will have to pay. It must be at a cost. What then is civilization and modernization if the people are going to be under the yoke of capitalist forces just because they don't have money? This is the thing that we want to resolve. But this crisis, what we are tackling now, is not and should not just be a mere statement from the Communist Party. No, Paula. I'm very happy that you are able to organize in this form. We want to start implementing in communities without involving the forces that are against us. This capacity of mobilization must then drive social transformation in our communities. We also want to ensure that the national health insurance is urgently implemented. We are worried, comrades. And we must say this because capital, and particularly the big boys of capital, the CEOs of various corporations in this country, some of them, they don't even own a thing. These forces must be taught a lesson by the working class. Until the day they realize that they have to reach out to the majority in this country and work together with the majority and their organizations, they won't continue to reap the profits the way they are doing. We have allowed these forces to do as they please, and they are now demeaning our own revolution. A revolution that was fought, comrade, like he says, over 350 years. That's over 3 centuries and a half of heroic struggle to free our country. We can't take over this country and give it to a group of unelected businessmen and women in the corporate world, representing the interest not even of the majority of the people of this country, but the interest of Europe and America. That is why when you go with neoliberal economic system, you are going the American route. You are going the British route, the European route. We are objecting to that. Because more capitalism can never liberate our people. On the contrary, it impoverishes them more. When we launched this program, the president signs this, the national health insurance, we were very excited. Capitalists start taking us to court. Capital. That's why we call them the heartless capitalist class. Mabalwisa uhulumende ukuthi asayine le national health insurance sasijabulele comrades sasekani wawukhona sisayina lento comrade Madoda wawukhona as MECs of health and other comrades from various provinces. You were there in Pretoria, we were signing this thing at the Union Building. Makumele implementwe baya ku court. Now the president is trying to concede to them. No, the president must not concede to capital. This process has undergone all necessary constitutional processes by our parliament. There's no reason why we should go back and even reverse certain things that let these ones be debated by so and so groupings. The groups now that they've been writing in their papers, they say, this is what Capital is saying. They say now we have got direct access to the president because he called a meeting with Capital and the minister and him to discuss this matter. Now, you see, that's the problem. Even if Tina Asiko to debate whatever you discuss with Capital is never a secret, by the way. They write about it, they gloat about it everywhere else. Just come back to the framework of your revolutionary alliance and let's really look into where things are in this country. Of course, in this regard, comrade, the implementation of the national health insurance is one of our priority demands in this Red October campaign. We want a full rollout of this program. And in this program, we want full access of quality health care of all our people through the national health insurance, which is also an important pillar of national development. We will never accept any single death of our people from lack of access to proper medical care in a country so rich with enough resources that can cater for all our people, just because we want to remain good boys and good girls of big capital. It won't work. It won't be like that with us. It is in this regard, comrade, that this year's program, we want to unite all our forces, particularly the workers and our communities. We say to the trade union movement, we are happy, Comrade Gerald, with the program that you have rolled out, starting from tomorrow, by COSATU and other various unions joining it. This program must continue so that this government must never enjoy a single day in office and have ministers speaking the way they do. I was just receiving a recent statement by the new Minister of Communication, who's already thinking that we must privatize post office. Yabona, everything owned by state must be privatized must be given to the private sector. That's what neoliberalism is about. But we'll have to defeat all of these things. So we need unity of our forces. We also need to build unity of various organizations at the local level and build a powerful socialist movement of the workers and the poor on the ground. At the same time, comrade, we have had many successes of our Red October campaign. Some of the programs have not yet been realized. There's a program on the land redistribution, for instance, from our Maubuyu Mhlaba campaign, which was launched as a Red October campaign in the 90s. That program, yasilwisa kakhulu with some of the white farmers, including that guy in Limpopo called ZZ2. When I was setting up our campaign there, I think it was 2008, we were having a rally. I had a big fight. We actually ended up in the police station. Nabelung. Amapun, angafuni size lapho. Ngoba they wanted to behave the way they are behaving today. So our land redistribution campaign, which also dealt with food security and sustainable livelihood, is drawing persistent land ownership and related production inequalities to the public, but equally showing their rootedness in our colonial and apartheid history. These inequalities, comrades, are reproduced by the dog-eat-dog capitalist market economy that treats everything as a commodity. For instance, the capitalist system treats everything as something that is for sale. Our lives themselves, they make them for sale. At the same time, this program, we have taken it now to our communities, to our villages. We want to work with our traditional leaders across the country to use the land, to find mechanism to utilize the land. And we want to call on our government in particular. Here in Mpumalanga, there's no reason why there should be villages without water. Redirect budgets, give people water. Even if it means boring water from the ground. We found that when we go to these communities, to tackle the crisis of food insecurity in Dala. We found that abantu baqala ngokuthi abanamanzi. Abantu ba ready ukuzilimela, ukuzinakekela. In fact, if we give people water in their communities, they can not only plow during the summer rains, they can plow throughout the year. They can look after themselves. But we are focusing on wrong things. We want to be driven by tender system, by business interests of the bourgeoisie, that is the capitalist forces. So we are saying we need to support this program in our communities. But we are saying to our communities, this program must not necessarily wait for the support of government. It must continue with or without government. We'll work with our communities to realize this. We have initiated some of the programs, for instance, by confining ourselves on this thing that we call the land economy, which means seeks to not only increase productive forces and enhance diversity as well as production in our villages, but we have initiated programs together with people in various villages and also in various townships. Here in Mpumalanga, we have a program in one of the villages that we have started in Matibidi. This model will be expanded to the rest of other villages. That's why in Ndabezitha Mahlangu, we are willing to come to your area and work with your council and the people there to initiate according to what you want to do. We have done this across the country, in Limpopo, in Kutama, and other places. But these are small interventions. We need a strategic intervention. We need something sustainable in our communities. We need to utilize the land, and there must be support for the people to utilize the land. We also want to say, comrade, we want to thank and express our sincere gratitude to most of the traditional leaders who, when we approach them, have made the land available for some of these initiatives. Moving forward, we'll be engaging with more other traditional leaders and communal property associations for further support and how to expand this vital village development model. At the same time, we have picked up problems on the ground, particularly problems relating to communal property associations. We want to ask them to stop internal conflicts and for them to respect the end of terms of offices and to follow democratic processes by allowing internal elections to take place. Because we have now picked up that the old commercial farmers, largely white commercial farmers, they simply collapse the property communal associations, work with one individuals, divert the resources that were meant for the community. The community will be involved in a long struggle. Some are struggles of more than 15 years. We once reported this matter to Comrade Togo Didi Samsan when she was the Minister of Land. We're now going to talk to the new minister to have a discussion with him about this question and how to resolve this. One of the things that we need is a broad meeting of the communal property associations so that we lay down the law, so that we also deal with those who abuse this system and use some members to steal the land. The land is restituted and given back to the community. The white commercial farmer comes back and say, I bring the skills, we'll continue to plow and do whatever. You guys will get whatever is due to you. That never happens as far as we have seen across many of our communities. So we are saying this matter must be resolved. At the same time, comrade, we want to intensify our struggle against gender-based violence in our communities. This is a new crisis. We are receiving some worrying trends taking place in most of our communities. The struggle for gender equality, comrades, to start with, it's an essential and integral struggle of the Red October campaign. So this is a permanent struggle in the South African Communist Party, because the struggle for gender equality and for a non-sexist society, it's a pillar of the National Democratic Revolution. So it's a permanent struggle. It's a struggle against oppression of women in any form, from patriarchy to any other way of oppressing women. We are picking up new problems of interpersonal and gender-based violence in our communities. We have to bring safety in our communities by going all out to fight against these new high levels of crime against women as part of our Red October campaign. For instance, in South Africa, in the second quarter of this year, there were 9,600 rape cases reported, reflecting that indeed the country's struggle against high levels of sexual violence is still difficult. 9,600 rape cases in one quarter, that's 3 months. Now, one of the most worrying crises, and we are launching this program, we discussed this in our joint political school with COSATU, and we discussed this with our comrades in Pope Crew, the police. We are going to the Eastern Cape, in Umtata. There's a new trend where women have to put money in as a protection fee against being raped. Now, these comrades, the protection fee mafia system, we have to defeat it, because it is not only in the construction field and other areas, it's now entering the field of rape. This cannot be acceptable. And therefore, our comrades in the Eastern Cape, as well as across the country, we have to raise the bar in our fight against gender-based violence in our different communities. We'll call on our government, for instance, to strengthen particularly the criminal law amendment bills, as well as the National Strategic Plan on Gender-Based Violence and Femicide, as a matter of priority to tackle this matter so that it's supported equally by the law. At the same time, you have seen these shootings that Comrade Mzwandile spoke about in Lusikisiki in the Eastern Cape, where 18 members of one family were killed in this senseless assault. We condemn this brutal massacre in the strongest possible terms as the SACP. But we are saying these attack, comrades, reflect a deepening crisis of lawlessness in our communities, where our people are just vulnerable. How is it, comrade, possible that in a democracy people become so vulnerable? Good democracy, akumelanga abantu babe at the mercy of criminals, let alone organized criminals, including capitalist criminals. That is why one of the things we have launched, when we were launching our rural development program in Kutama, we equally, as well as in Tabanchu in the Free State, we were equally launching a program against stock theft and therefore against crime in the community. So all of these things must be integrated in our program. They should not be separated, so that we tackle these problems holistically, including this crisis of protection mafias that is terrorizing South Africa. We have to transform the financial sector, comrades, which was also the many progress that we have made in this sector are mainly attributable to our Red October campaign, which we launched in the early 2000s. That program gave us Mzansi account. When the banks were saying the poor are unbankable, the Communist Party said, no, the poor are bankable. If you don't want, we will create people's banks. Then Minister of Finance, Tito Mboweni, threatened our General Secretary at the time, Blade Nzimande, and said, no, Nzimande, you want to create spaza banks. That's how he managed to come down, and we had a conference. That conference on 2002, at that time, I think Manuel was still the minister. Tito was in the Reserve Bank. There, we spoke about transformation of the financial sector. Capital today is going against the grain of that agreement. They are going against every other thing that we have agreed on. So Mzansi account was a consequence of the Red October campaign and its interventions. They were saying you can't open an account without a pay slip if you are unemployed or self-employed. We made it possible as the South African Communist Party for everyone in this country to open a bank account, whether working or not working. Of course, we don't own a bank. If it was possible, the Mzansi account that was established by various banks, we called it the Red October Bank. It could be in a SACP bank. But because of lack of transformation, including of things that Comrade Gerald was talking about, poor monetary policy by the Reserve Bank, that is untransformative, as well as poor fiscal policy by the South African government that cannot establish state banks that are viable across the board. We were at the mercy of big capital. That is why even when we set up cooperative banks, they still have to have a banking account with another bank. I mean, what nonsense is that? If you have a bank, if you are called a bank, you are a bank. Why should you have a bank that banks with another bank? You must relate with the Reserve Bank. So these are part of the problems that we must resolve if we are to tackle the problems and the crisis of South Africa. But through this Red October campaign, we were able to establish, for instance, through legislation in Parliament, the National Credit Act of 2005, as well as setting up the National Credit Regulator as a consequence of that, and the Financial Sector Conduct Authority. You know, today, the leaders of the Financial Sector Conduct Authority can't even consult the Communist Party. They don't know where they come from. It's us who created that particular possibility, and that saved this capitalist economy from collapsing in the 2008 economic crisis in the world. But nonetheless, these are measures that we are following, comrades, that are not ending exploitation of capital. So when we are embarking on these things, we are not just reformists as the Communist Party. We must not forget our primary agenda. Our primary agenda is to transfer class power from the minority capitalist class to the majority working class, to have all the power to the people. That's what is in the Freedom Charter. Equally, it's not just only to transfer this class power, including that class wealth. Because at the moment, a minority capitalist class rules all of us. They decide even what kind of democracy we should have. That is why Oppenheimer and his family, they can fund all opposition parties against the African National Congress. And after elections, we hug each other, it's democracy, everything is back to normal. No, not back to normal with us. It's not back to normal when the oppressors of our country come through the back door to steal the life of our people, to steal our freedom, because of a pact with the elite. That we cannot accept. That is why we have to highlight clearly what is the true enemy of South Africa today. The real enemy of South Africa, and this is the enemy of our revolution, we have said the primary contradiction. That's how we put it, Komisa Bobo, in the language of the movement. We said the primary contradiction of our revolution is against monopoly capital. Why this changes? When the Ruperts, the Oppenheimers, participated in this election as a class force, they joined this election. We were contesting these elections against capital. We're not contesting these elections against ideas of parties, against who can do better here and there. No, we were contesting this against imperialism, against capitalism. We have seen what they can do with money. Now, money, comrades, is a product of society. It's not natural. Imali ayikho natural. That is why every country has got its own currency. We can even change this rand and make it something else, the way we want. So those who think they can control the future of our country by money are mistaken. It is in this regard, comrade, that despite these successes of our Red October campaigns, we must not be fooled as the Communist Party to think that these struggles are socialist struggles. No. Those are democratic struggles that benefit the people, but they don't transform property relations. The fundamental task is to transform property relations. What do I mean by this? I mean giving the people back their land. That's the first task of transforming property relations. And therefore, you cannot subject this thing to an unending debate in parliament. If the parliamentarians don't want, let's have a referendum. Let the people decide on the land themselves. Not some representatives that have failed for 30 years to transfer the fundamental question of our revolution, the land question. Now, you cannot end poverty unless you take back the land to the hands of the people. Now you get bourgeois scholars and intellectuals trying to say, no, they will use one restitution land and say, no, there we gave the people back the land. People decided to receive money instead of receiving the land. There we try to help this problem that we are intervening, but we know the source. The source remains capital. That's the source that we must deal with. So it is in this regard, comrade, that we are not only calling for the financial sector to reduce its own services as it charges our society. Every other transaction that you do in this country, it's about financial sector services. We want the state role in these services. The state to make money in the transactions of our society. Mawuthenga airtime, enye ibhanki yenza imali. Mawubhatala umuntu, akubhatali wena kuphela. Kunemali seyichargiwe yakubhank. We don't understand why the state cannot do this thing for itself. And if we were to put it on record, and I did put this thing on record to the comrades and the bureaucracy in the National Treasury, I went to address them the other day. I said to them, you can go and look into the top 100 companies in the world. 5 of them, in fact 15 of them, are financial sector institutions, the top 100 companies in the world. Of these 15, 5 are from China. 4 banks, 1 insurance, all state-owned. Kodwa la abafuni anyone to own the bank. Why are the Chinese banks competing with any of the big banks in the world? So it's because of capitalism. Amabhujwa. Capitalism bese basitshintsha ingqondo asayibona indlela. Kumele sikhanyise lendlela ayibonakale. Abantu bethu balahlekile mabacabanga ukuthi neoliberalism is the answer to our problems. It is not, and it can never be. Let me speak lastly, comrade, to this question. Our critical stance on the government of national unity. My comrades, ngumzwile udokotela omkhulu ka-ANC, udokotela Masemola. Udokotela Masemola isifundiswa sethu ke lesi. Uyibeka kahle lento le ukuthi no, let's talk. Utulas ungcesi our deputy national chair naye uyasho ukuthi masikhulume iqiniso lithi ukusukela ama elections abakhona asikahlali siumbimbi sidiscuss isimo esifacene nerevolution yabantu base South Africa njenge leadership ye liberation movement that brought about working with the people freedom esnayo. That's the first truth. Now, if we have not done that, who then decides to take our government or our movement after coming from the elections to hand it over, almost literally, to a party with only 20%. The DA. Inkinga elapho. Let me put it proper in English. That is where the problem is. We have with the DA a party of monopoly capital. A party of our erstwhile oppressors. If you want to know, we can give you history of where they come from, these DA people. The organization, what it is. It's a merger, ultimately, from various mergers of different right-wing, colonial, and apartheid parties from the National Party, Progressive Federal Party, into Democratic Party, now into Democratic Alliance with the National Party, and several others. They are one thing. They represent white interest. They represent colonial interest. They represent imperialism. They don't represent the people of this country. Why on earth, out of this 20%, we think we can't find a setting of government that doesn't involve the Democratic Alliance? Why? Let's ask this question. And we in the Communist Party will continue to ask this question and many other more questions. That's the first point. So, we don't want this marriage with the DA. We think this marriage, comrades, is not only bringing trouble within the relationship we have with the ANC. This marriage is not in the interest of the people of our country. To start with, this marriage, for instance, Umzwandile was speaking about, even Dr. Masemul was speaking about the Basic Education Laws Amendment Act, the Bella Act, that was signed by the president, defied by a minister that he has appointed into office. Yabona, angaze ngibona umhlolo nje. Upresident angithi sithe uappointa labantu according to the constitutional powers. Appointa kanjani umuntu ongakulalela ukutshela in public ukuthi angizi lapho. Uphinde ungamxoshi, uhlale naye. It's unacceptable this. The president must take action against this Kwarube woman. The minister of the DA, because she's not the minister of our republic. She's refusing to be the minister of our republic. She's disdainful, disrespectful. But she takes the attitude of a handlers, the DA. Ulalele umamu elenzile makakhuluma. Uye kanye makuthiwa lento ikhulunywa usoli Mapaila, mina ngarepeata into ayisho. Athi akuna GNU la equalition ye DA no ANC kusho elenzile akusho mina. Ngiyamquote ngamanye amagama. Uthi hayi upresident Ramaphosa beka address a meeting ye FES Foundation Frederick Ebert Foundation. Yase German le foundation I guess. Uthi hayi umongameli wabona ukuthi no akakwazi ukuyithengisa lento ye coalition ye DA no ANC. Ufuna amanye ama-party so that adile nalabantu kwa-ANC abangayifuni i-DA. Ukhuluma ngathi ke yithi laba asifuni i-DA and angeke ize isikhohlise. Abantu bethu bahlupheka nje ile DA nonxiwa nkulu bayo. Sibuya nje over 3.5 centuries of struggle by the same forefathers and foremothers of this group of people. Abana mahloni. But the worst is that our own comrades, amahloni akuphi mani yophana ngepower yabantu kanje ningaconsultanga nomuntu. Why ningabizanga at least even if it's a public meeting nathi siyenzeni? We will never accept this thing, comrades. And we have said to our comrades, you know, the DA and their so-called ministers, by the way, bayahlangana all the time. They communicate different from government. I think they even have a PR company that is just working on them. Because at the moment, so there's a new state capture, Belpotinga, the new Belpotinga. Let's I expose that in Singamakomanis, by the way. At the same time, what we have seen with this thing is that this agenda is going to reverse major gains that we have made as a liberation movement. That's the reason why we are opposed to it. And let me clarify this thing in this meeting, because kuna ma comrades, even some of our comrades want to know, but the Communist Party kuluma kanjani in abantu bayo abaku government of national unit. No. Ukoqala. Thina asina ministera go government. U-ANC wakwala lokho. Sacela ku comrade uZuma sathi siphe 2 ministries that we can control. No, let's not create problems with the ANC. Let's lead it the old way. But we know these are your members. And we wanted few things. We didn't want very sophisticated things. One of the ministries I can just indicate. We wanted the ministry that deals with arts and culture. We said, give us this one. What? No. He didn't even appoint a communist in that position for that matter. From our first engagement when he was going to set up his cabinet. So we're not interested in many things. But this time, the DA even had the guts to put something, what they call this thing, the agreement that they wanted to have. No. Sealed agreement. But sealed agreement. I-sealed agreement ayizosho ukuthi lo stayinezeni uleader we-DA bengeke account ku-cabinet. Imagine that guards the audacity of the DA. But the issue is that how do our comrades even entertain these things? Tolerate this nonsense? They were saying no, they want sealed agreement, Bona. Bafunuk operator from that level. So that they can do things as they wish. Tina, we don't have a single person accounting to us as the Communist Party. Let them give us one ministry, one province, one district, one municipality. You will see what is transformation and what is change under that sealed agreement that the DA wanted. They are not willing to do that. But at the same time, our comrades are now willing to embrace a party that it's a full-blown neoliberal party, a party of the markets, a party of austerity. Austerity means budget cuts. That's why kungaqashwa abasebenzi ezibhedlela nezikolweni and everywhere else. Even this new minister in education was already threatening to retrench 2,400 workers. I mean, unacceptable behavior. When we should be creating jobs. We don't even have enough teachers for that matter in this country. But they think that the private sector will provide. That's the crisis of neoliberalism. So it is in this regard, comrade, that we have rejected this question of the neoliberal class forces represented by the likes of the DA and others that they coordinate, as well as forces that in their intention are not aiming at the interests of the National Democratic Revolution. This question, comrade, this matter is going to affect how we are going to implement many of our programs. On the Bella Bill, for instance, this is further postponed because not only did this minister, Kwarube from the DA, because they call themselves that, we thought the minister is a minister of state. Not only did she not go to the signing ceremony, uPresident uhlangana nesolidarity. Kubhali solidarity kusho yona istatement sayo. Akusho thina. Siyaquote nje ukuthi kwenzakalani behind the back. Isolidarity ithi hayi sibuya ku meeting nomongameli right into the night. In the morning there's a meeting with AfriForum. Makumele kusayinwe ku-extendwa Section 4 and 5 for 3 months. Kuzo discuss. For a bill that has undergone all processes. The question is, and this question, Comrade Masemula, Dr. Masemula, we ask it with absolute respect, not with disdain, with absolute respect. Why are we giving in to the interest of the right-wing forces so easily every time? We've been fighting for the introduction of the national health insurance for decades. There's no agency. But the right-wing forces come and stop a transformation law. Why? What informs this thing? When we pose this question, we're not questioning the integrity of any single individual. We just want to understand the political basis for these actions that have been taken. That is why we will fight against these racist right-wing forces and the neoliberal forces as well as their collaborators. But you know, one thing that also irritates me is that we then allow these forces like the DA's Helen Zille to start interfering in the affairs of the alliance, to start interfering in the affairs of the ANC, insult our comrades, call on the president to take action against so and so. Manje sokuthiwa thatha decision against uPanyaza. Panyaza Lisufi. Why should Panyaza be punished because of the instructions of the DA? We want to say the SACP, we are monitoring this matter very, very intently and carefully. They touch that comrade on the basis of instructions from the DA. We will never accept that our comrades must be threatened by parties that are not the ANC. We don't even threaten our comrades in government. But why? What audacity that the DA has? So, the DA, we must say to Helen Zille, focus on the DA matters, leave the alliance alone. The ANC is not your business, it's our business. We are members of the ANC in our own right. Now, if our leaders are opening the gaps and space for her to come in and create divisions, we will never accept that. And you know, I see some tweets going around. The other day I listened to Comrade Panyaza on 702 claiming, no, I don't want to be anything. I don't want to be president. Why do we have to pressurize a comrade to go to that extent? Because we allow counter-revolutionary forces to bring a wedge inside our movement. He doesn't have to declare that. If members of the ANC elect him in his own right, so be it. What's the problem with that? It's an internal democratic process. Why does he have to put a disclaimer? Because we are threatening him. We allow counter-revolutionary forces to threaten our comrades. We will never accept this thing as a Communist Party, comrades. It doesn't matter who is leading. We will never allow this tendency to get rooted inside our movement, to be controlled by reactionary forces like the DA. This is what actually worsens the situation. So, I don't want to see our comrades fighting, feeling this way. I mean, you are not even sure whether your leaders are going to be with you or not. No. ANC must respect its own internal processes. Because if ANC doesn't respect these processes, they also affect all of us inside the alliance. Comrades, let me express our international message of solidarity. So in other words, even before we finalize our discussions with our comrades in the alliance, our position is clear. We will never be in alliance with the DA. We will never support a neoliberal government. We will fight to keep the national democratic revolution on track. And this is not just going to be political phrases. We are starting with the class action tomorrow with the workers across the board. We want to mobilize all our people to join the marches tomorrow to show capital that workers are together and workers will stand together and our communities will stand with the workers to defend their rights. Because if teachers are not employed, nurses are not employed, police women and men are not employed, it's the communities that suffers. We cannot accept a party of neoliberalism, of austerity measures to impose itself on the democratic movement of the people just because of weaknesses in the leadership. We will defend our leaders even against these reactionary forces. So I felt that it's important to summarize it in that way. We are going ahead with our position against the government of national unity, against neoliberal discourse in this country. In other words, it's a campaign against capitalism. Now, comrade, what is clear, and this is what the working class must appreciate and understand, the class contradictions have sharpened. And when they became too hot, some comrades in the ANC could not hold it. Now society and the working class as a whole, like Komisa Bobo said, the struggle is the struggle of the masses. Ours is to outline what the mass must do with this moment. This moment requires the masses to sharpen these contradictions in their favor, not to allow capital to win again. We can't give back so many centuries of sacrifice of our people. That's why we're saying there's not even a single kingdom or kingship in this country, or queenship, Ndabezit, that has not fought a war against colonialism. Not a single one. We cannot go there, comrades. That's what comrades must understand. That is why I felt insulted. Sometimes some of the comrades even saying we want to question their integrity. Bafuna ukuhlanganisa or EFF, the MK party with the DA. They are not the same. No, they are not the same. Those ones are political adversaries. You can differ with them. It's okay. We'll engage with them. It's okay. But they don't become strategic anymore for our people. On what basis do they become that? Are they a class force? No, they are a mere social force. I even said one day, Komisa Bobo, that these two cannot even transform a village because they have no access to productive forces. Why are you worried about them? Those with access to productive forces with capital that destroys government and so forth are those with the DA that have made poverty to be what it is in this country, inequality to be what it is in this country. So we're not just describing the problem, we are showing the African National Congress and the people of this country what the problem of this country is. The problem of this country is the DA. That's the bottom line. That's the bottom line. And in our engagement in the alliance, that's the bottom line. Business talks about the bottom line as they talk about exploitation of the workers to calculate profit. Tina, that's the bottom line. Anti-imperialism, anti-colonialism, anti-monopoly capital. It starts there. Then we have an alliance. This alliance is a class alliance. It's not a social alliance of relationship between Soli and Balula or Soli or Ramaphosa. No. It's a class alliance, this one. Every friendship can be broken. Yes, we don't care about personal friendships. Friendships can go. I've lost many friends along the way, by the way. Yes, we will make more. What we are talking about is class alliance. We are in class alliance with the African National Congress. We are not in a social alliance. So we'll debate and finalize these questions when the ANC is ready for engagement. On the international question, comrade, it's very important that I read this part, because this is the last section. It's our solidarity with the people of Palestine. As you know, we started with this candlelight process to remember so many thousands of people that have been killed in Palestine. We have called as a Communist Party, and comrades have spoken at length about this. I'll just give a brief summary on this, that we remain committed and call for an immediate ceasefire by Israel and the unconditional end of the occupation of all occupied Palestinian lands, as well as an immediate international recognition of Palestinians' fundamental rights to self-determination in their entire land. We call on the leaders of apartheid Israel regime to be held accountable for violating the rights of Palestinian people and for their attacks on other countries in the Middle East, including the recent killings and destruction that it has carried out in Lebanon and Iran. And we also say the people of Iran deserve the right to defend themselves. Who said only one group of people have the right to defend themselves? All human beings have. So Iran reserved the right to defend itself, as is Lebanon. Of course, we stand with the people of Lebanon, but also want to appreciate once more the people of Iran, who constitute part of the axis of resistance in support of various forces in the region. Back home on the continent, we reiterate our call for the end to the colonial occupation of Western Sahara by the imperialist-backed Morocco country, as well as call on France to withdraw its continued support for the continued occupation, support of Morocco for the continued occupation of the people of Western Sahara. Here back home in SADC, we call for democracy in Swaziland, a people's democracy. In other words, the Tinkundla regime here must be held accountable for the things that Comrade Mamba was talking about. Violations of human rights, including abductions and assassination of human rights activists, amongst them Advocate Thulan Maseko and several others. And the recent one that they abducted members of parliament who were here, they abducted them here in South Africa back to Swaziland and sentenced them to almost over 100 years or so. Now, the point is, why South Africa keeps quiet when Swaziland does these cross-border raids? These cross-border raids were done by the apartheid regime when they killed our people in Maseru, in Lesotho, when they killed our people in Gaborone, when they bombed Zambia and Zimbabwe and everywhere else, when they killed our people in Matola in Mozambique. It was done by the apartheid regime. Why we allow this autocracy here to undermine us in this way? And they are hiring assailants from South Africa to do this job. This is unacceptable, comrades. And it is in this regard that we want to hold them accountable for the health of the president of Pudemo, Comrade Mlungisi Makhanya. And we want to wish him speedy recovery. They tried to kill this comrade by infiltrating some of their own stooges. I saw the statement from the spokesperson of the government of Swaziland attacking the ANC spokesperson and the ANC for issuing the statement in solidarity with Comrade Mlungisi and in solidarity with Pudemo. We stand with the people of Swaziland and we call for democracy in Swaziland. At the same time, comrades, South Africa has to play a critical role for democratization in this region. With regard to Cuba, we must say, comrades, we remain unflinching in our solidarity with the people of Cuba. And we call on the US government to lift the draconian economic blockade that they've imposed on this country and to remove the revolutionary government of Cuba from the list of countries sponsoring and supporting terrorism. I mean, this is an insult to say the least. Why on earth or who on earth can ever believe that Cuba can be a terrorist state? Just because Cuba is pursuing its own economic path that is not capitalist, has been punished in this form. Cuba for us, comrades, remains a rare revolution that we need to emulate. We express equally our continued solidarity with the people of Cuba in this regard. And we support the Bolivarian People's Republic of Venezuela in its march forward to build a strong socialist system in their country and to continue the resistance against US imperialism, as well as against European sanctions that are aimed at destroying that revolution. We also welcome, for instance, and support the recent elections in Venezuela, which we sent our delegation. Comrade Madala Masuku was part of the delegates, and our General Secretary, Comrade Gerald, Comrade Solepetwe, and Comrade Obert Mapaila from the ANC. Our alliance delegation went to observe those elections. They gave them a thumbs up, but imperialism condemns them because their people lost the elections. They don't accept elections where they lose. That's the problem. So it is in this regard that we want to give more strength to the Venezuelan revolution. They are subjected to all sorts of things, but they must continue the fight, and they are building one of the most important socialism in Latin America. The US recently attempted a coup d'etat against the government just after these elections. But these fellows were arrested with massive arms, and they've been using the country of Colombia. And we want to say to our comrades in Colombia, please do not allow Colombia, the narco mafia of Colombia, the narco bourgeoisie of Colombia, to be utilized again, like what they did when they killed Simon Bolivar, the great liberator, the leader who liberated 6 countries directly. That's why we call him the liberator. Everywhere else, the masses are their own liberators. But in Latin America, Simon Bolivar was leading the charge on Calvary, on a horseback, fighting together with his soldiers to liberate 6 Latin American countries. That's why we call him the liberator. He was killed by the narco bourgeoisie of Colombia. Colombia cannot today collude with the US to destroy the socialist revolution in Venezuela. We also support our comrades in Nicaragua and express our unwavering support for the economic path that they are choosing and the fight against imperialism. And we are observing this imperialist offensive against their country. We share our solidarity equally with the heroic people of Haiti who taught us how to end slavery. They are subjected to massive poverty and economic degradation and criminal gangsters. We share this solidarity with these people and the rest of the Caribbean people, as well as people of South America and other parts of the world. We want to also say, on the African continent still, the people, there are wars here, including in the Sudan. We want South African government to pay special attention to that region, especially the region of West Africa. We are happy that there's a conference being held here by former President Thabo Mbeki about a new discourse on the African continent. The people in Western Africa, particularly in Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, Chad, and Central African Republic, must be supported. Our revolution must be with them. Our revolutionary movement must be with them. They've taken up a strong anti-colonial campaign and program against France. France, as you know, colonized more than half of African countries. They are the biggest colonizer on the African continent. So these comrades in West Africa have done something wonderful. But equally, we want to give more strength and solidarity to our comrades in the DPRK, North Korea, who are under so much untold pressure from the USA to destroy their chosen path of development. We want to say that we want to see the Korean question resolved, the question of Korean independence resolved, and it should only be resolved with the removal of the US presence in South Korea, so that the unity of the people of Korea can be realized, not be divided by the imperialist forces. We want to give more strength and solidarity to our dear comrades in the People's Republic of China. And we want to call on them for more patience and resolve as they repel all provocations by the US imperialism and its allies who are trying to create turmoil in the Taiwanese Straits. We continue to give our unwavering support for one China policy and for the full reunification of China. And we have also seen, comrades, charge the affair, that China has been giving solidarity to all struggling socialism across the world because of imperialism. We are noticing that this is a critical role, and China must keep it up. When all of these countries are sanctioned by the West, China is there to pick up the tabs. They pay a heavy price for this. They lose business as well themselves. They lose trade because of their solidarity with countries like Cuba, North Korea, and others. We also give our solidarity to all socialist countries who are fighting for the rights of their people to be independent. and we reiterate our support for a new global world order, a multipolar world order system devoid of domination by one grouping of capitalist countries and one economic system over the other, but wherein a variety of socio-economic systems and independence of countries will be respected. And to this end, we value so much the Russian Federation in its special military operation in Ukraine. We know that this battle is so important not only for Russia, but for the South countries as well. This is a battle against imperialism. All of imperialist countries have ganged up against one country, Europe and America, through NATO. We want to say more strength to these countries that are trying to establish a new world order system. We will continue to ask these many questions, comrades, because in our country, as in many other countries, we can say, comrades, that a true revolution cannot succeed until it has achieved decolonizations, until it remains anti-imperialist and anti-capitalist. We should confront the barbarity of neoliberalism and its collaborators by waging an unrelenting class war against capitalism. Hence our call on the workers, as Marx has said, workers of the world unite. We have nothing to lose but your chains. As we ask one last question, as asked by Don Helder, he said, Don Helder, when I ask the people, when I give people food, they call me a saint. When I ask why people have no food, they call me a communist. That's the truth. That's what we must ask this question. These questions will reveal the truth. We need to know the political economy of this country. We must not just say the people are poor. We must ask the question, why the people are poor? Why the people are unequal? In that way, we will then tackle the crisis that is South Africa, the crisis of capitalism, the crisis of neoliberalism. With this, comrades, sorry for talking too long. We want to wish Mpumalanga well and thank you for hosting this successful Red October launch for our campaign and wish you more of such successful activities across the province. Amandla! Forward to socialism, forward! Down with capitalism, down! Thank you very much.